Hey guys, today would have been Dan Markel's 51st birthday. There was a very important motion hearing this afternoon, which you can see for yourself at Deep Dive True Crime. So I'm not going to go over every single detail because you can clearly just go to Deep Dive True Crime and listen to it yourself. Some of the volume's a little not too great, especially at the beginning, but we are very grateful to Mentor Lawyer and Ladybug for putting this together for us, people who really care about the Dan Markel case. So I like this judge. Judge Everett seems to be a very sharp judge. I was impressed when, during the questioning regarding the admissibility of the divorce file, he said, motive can have many tiers to it, meaning if Wendy Adelson's desire was to relocate with the children, Mr. Adelson's motive could have been, I'm going to do something to help my sister accomplish a goal. So that's common sense, right? So the state basically echoed that argument and won on that issue, saying that the motive of the group as a whole, the Adelsons, comes a lot from these filings. So judge ruled that they can't be presented as evidence of the motive or a multi-tiered motive. Okay, so this was surprising that on the issue of whether the state could mention that Charlie's old attorney called Isom asking if further arrests were coming after Katie was arrested. I thought it was interesting when the state said Isom is not going to be a witness at Charlie's trial. So I hope he's doing okay. I know he was retired, but that seems a little strange to me that he's not going to be a witness. So the judge granted Ratchbaum that issue. Ratchbaum said it would be highly prejudicial. Okay, so the June Chinta statement about Donna saying that Dan was haunting them from the grave, ultimately the judge ruled that that could be admissible. Not surprising there. That's not being offered to prove that Dan really is haunting them. And the judge made this kind of funny comment about Ghostbusters. Okay, so Rivera's gang affiliation and his schizophrenia, those things are not going to be brought up. Although the mental health thing could be brought up subject to impeachment. Okay. Judge also said that conditions of a plea bargain can be mentioned. So there are some issues that the state didn't object to that were granted, such as, let's see, something about the domestic violence regarding Luis Rivera and Jessica. Let's see. There's going to be a pending ruling on the motion to suppress all those wiretaps. The judge reserved ruling on the Missouri recording because there's no transcript ready yet, as well as on the wire calls. Regarding Ratchbaum's, motion to compel Ratchbaum's identification of his rebuttal evidence, the judge said identification of the items would go a long way. If there's something the state hasn't been given, then he has to turn it over ASAP. Ratchbaum also asked if he and his client can attend Thursday's hearing by Zoom. So the judge said, of course, yes, they may, even though it really pertains to Donna and Harvey. Okay, so overall, no big surprises there other than finding out that Detective Isom is not going to be there. Okay, so let's take this off the screen. Thank you so much to Mentor Lawyer. Okay, so since it is Dan's birthday, I did want to present this much more articulate law professor who spoke eloquently about Dan. This is from maybe 2015, perhaps. Not really sure, but it was at Harvard Hillel.
My first order of business is to convey regrets and appreciation from my deans, Martha Minow, who knew Dan, and I love Dan very much, and very much wanted to be here, and we plan to have a conversation, and unfortunately she's not able to join us because of the press of business, and she sends her regrets and her thoughts of Dan, and I will try to do my best in her absence. The second order of business is to say that it's really a bittersweet thing for me to speak here. It's an honor just to be associated with Dan in an intellectual environment, and an environment of discourse, and an environment of argument, and here in this hill where I met Dan is wholly appropriate, and that makes me feel honored. But it's very, very painful, because the idea that I would be speaking at an event that was held in Dan's memory is quite literally incomprehensible. When I met Dan, he was a freshman, fall of 1991. I was a junior. We knew each other from then onward throughout life. And it just seems at a very fundamental level to me just wrong that I should be present here. I mean, to be clear, he shouldn't be speaking at my memorial/lecture in memory of either. I was also thinking about Dan's spirit when I was trying to prepare my remarks today. And I thought the joy of knowing truth. So I must have had more than 1,000 conversations with Dan, maybe 2,000, maybe. Over 25 years, we have a lot of conversations. And I don't think I can think of even one conversation with Dan. I was saying this to Mom over here. I don't think I can think of even one conversation where we agreed. And what's more, our disagreements were actually intense. And often right here in Lowell House, which you can see through the windows, where Dan lived as an undergraduate and I sometimes stayed as an undergraduate, and where Dan lived when he was a law student, because he was a resident tutor, and I lived because I was a postdoc, and I was living in Lowell House in the dining room. So either the dining room, I guess it was that way, where the old building was, or there, or here. So all within a radius of roughly 200 yards. We argued. And we argued intensely. And almost every time, I left the argument thinking that he had gotten better. And as my students know, and some of them are here, they're usually nothing. That's not something I did very much, but it was true. You know, Dan was an amazingly subtle thinker and an amazingly skilled arguer. And so I want to preface my remarks by saying that I'm very sure that if Dan were here, as he truly is in some sense, you know, he would be sitting right there by Joan in the front row. He'd be looking annoyed the entire time. And then he would raise his hand and ask the first question, and then there would be very little of my talk left subsequently. So it's in that spirit that I present what I want to say, which is necessarily preliminary and necessarily subject to revision. And you'll have to provide your spirit of Dan in your own revisions or corrections of what I have to say. So as I was coming in and discussing my topic, two of my much esteemed colleagues, Professor Shai Cohen and Professor Jay Harris, who've already been mentioned, who also co-convened the Jewish Law Seminar with me at the law school.
Okay, so that gives you a little taste of what kind of person Dan Markel was that he always loved a good debate, and he always did it with zeal, he still maintained his friendships with people, even if he strongly disagreed with people. So sorry about the bad volume. That's just the way the recording turned out. So let's take this off the screen here. One last thing. Okay, so sorry again about the crappy voice. I had a very long couple of meetings today. So this one I thought would be nice to show you guys, just to give a taste of what kind of person Dan was. And I don't think I can really make this bigger, but he's talking about how he and Wendy went to the wedding of Wendy's oldest brother. And you can see here a photograph of, there's Donna, there's Harvey, looking very happy. I guess for a while they did approve ultimately of the oldest brother's wife. And Dan speaks glowingly about this event. There's, I guess that's the oldest brother there with Harvey and Donna. There's Wendy and Dan. He says she got elbowed very hard on the dance floor from all the whirling. Okay, so that looks like Charlie when he was much younger looking. Okay, so I just thought that would be interesting to show. It's nice that they have kept the block up with Dan's writing. So, okay, so I do have one more work meeting, which I will croak through, and then I'm supposed to be on Surviving the Survivor, so time to get more hot tea, lemon, etc. Thank you guys for all your support and caring about Dan.